Okay, hey, thank you, and good morning to everybody. My name is Valtteri Halla, as said. I work in the Nokia in a business unit called MeeGo Devices. We create handset devices like the Nokia N900 and then lots of others to come. And then we put their software, put there always Linux software based on a platform we call MeeGo. It is the next step from what used to be called MIMO. And today I'm here to tell you a few words about what MeeGo really is, to give you the basics. Also discuss about how that relates to KDE, my views, and I really would like to hear your views also. And maybe I hope I'm able to point out some things, some implications of MeeGo, which maybe you haven't so far noticed or thought of. And then I have a couple of messages to leave you with. But so anyway, I think first of all I want to say that it's really great to be here in an open source conference. It's been a while for me that I really was talking in a place like this, and of course it was a GNOME conference last time where I was, and I kind of never thought that I would be here with the KDE guys, and that just shows like how little we know about the future. Things changed, and well, back then in Nokia we were really doing kind of skunkworks activities, creating these internet tablet devices using Linux open source, grabbed the kind of most suitable technologies out there that kind of we saw available and built a lot on the GTK and GNOME technologies, and just I think Linux open source, they are just inevitable trends. You can't stop them, and they grow in the context of the planet, but also in the context of companies like Nokia, and Linux is nowadays a very big thing in Nokia. And when it becomes a big thing, then also big changes are possible, like the acquisition of Trolltech and so on. And that was the thing, of course, that really changed the thinking and opened up like huge new opportunities. And I think one of my key messages today really is that we haven't seen the implications of that acquisition and those things yet. And maybe in my presentation today I can give some light about that still. But there's big things happening, and these are trends that take many years to happen. So yeah, so I'm really glad to be here in a place where technology is really done and discussed directly, and there's no extra hassle or stuff on top of that. So I'll be here the whole day, and I enjoy hearing your perspective and the things you have created. Not too many familiar faces actually here yet, but I'm sure that will change now over the coming years. So let's take care of that. Okay, now to the presentation. MeeGo redefining the Linux desktop landscape. Well, that's pretty kind of provocative statement to bring to your face here, like you are the masters of the desktop anyway. So, and I don't mean that we are kind of really trying to change what you are doing or kind of eating your lunch or anything with MeeGo or things like that, but you're building on certain things, and you're living also in the same world with everybody else, and big things are moving around, and they might have effect on the overall desktop landscape. And also the word desktop, we have been struggling with that actually in Nokia for a long time, and we kind of always used it in very wide sense and even misused that because, well, desktop is the thing that, at least from Nokia point of view, when we create phones and little client devices, then the desktop is the stuff that you put on top of the operating system, like to really simplify it. And what is the other word for it? Well, we'd like to call it maybe palm top or handheld top or whatever, but there hasn't been so clear anyway. Of course, it was desktop PCs that were driving the Linux technology creation and KDE and GNOME and things like that. But this is one of those things. Maybe the landscape is not going to be a desktop landscape anymore. It's going to be some other thing, and we need to invent a few other names, and I guess that's part of the idea of redefining here what I come with. So okay, anyway, here's what I'm going to talk today. Give you an overview of MeeGo first, that we get on the same page. what are the objectives, the architecture, talk about open source there. Actually, previous slide I really said that this is greetings from the industry. We view things. We talk a bit more from the kind of open source terminology point of view, but I think it's really not kind of there's no contradiction with free software or open source. We really have like a lot of kind of ways to combine these things, and they are working on the same software anyway. Okay, talk about the team. Who is building MeeGo? And this is really important. We have a huge team and huge pool of talent. Then look at the practicalities, or what are the concrete things like the netbook, MeeGo for netbooks, MeeGo for handsets, and these things that are really coming out that you can get your hands on today and start trying out and working on writing software and technologies. I'm going to say a few words about the MeeGo Touch Framework, which is a key technology in MeeGo, especially in the handsets and in the tablets in the future to come. And then, of course, the KDE technologies in MeeGo, how they are making inroads there, and what's the interface now, at least from Nokia point of view. It's really interesting point. And then summarizing the key messages. So here's my outline for today. All right, so let's go forward. What is MeeGo? Well, we work with something we call MIMO. We have this project ongoing, and then Intel was working with something they called Moblin, mostly for the netbooks. They had also plans for the handsets, and we were really doing very similar thing, like using upstream open source technologies as much as possible as such, using open source throughout the stack from really applications to the kernel all the way through. And really striving to find this way of doing totally transparent R&D and figure out that, hey, we're doing the same thing, like why would we do it in two separate streams? So let's just pool our resources. We can do much more, especially now when in the netbooks, in the handsets especially, there's like big competition taking place, so we need to deliver much and we need to deliver fast. So we combine the best things of Moblin and MIMO. MIMO brings lots of like handset mobile specific things, like personal data management, power management, device management, things like that. And from Moblin we are actually getting really good kind of platform thinking, so that making releases of the operating system platform, making it in really like time-based manner, having a process which is totally open and participative, like the whole R&D cycle really taking place in the public and things like that, and really good tools and automation in creating a Linux distribution, and this is something that we were not so strong in MIMO, and Moblin guys like Dirk and others, like they brought that know-how in the picture. So, all right, but MeeGo is a fully open source software platform, so everything that we put in MeeGo.com under open source licenses. I'll have a slide about the particular license policies more later on, but also not just in terms of license, but in terms of the process and the way we work. So on Wednesday we had this thing we call Day 1 for the handset development. That means that we finally got our act together, the Moblin and MIMO team, to figure out what's now, how do we want to merge the handset related architectural components, the technology selections, and have a baseline of the software now available, which was then made public for kind of public development and integration of source code, and then the build system is now available there for public access. And basically, now we're taking really big step forward on this path. MeeGo is providing a common set of APIs across the client devices. So we're supporting different client devices, handsets, netbooks, consumer electronics devices, maybe car, head units they call, the car media centers and so on, and others too. But there will be one API and one SDK and one way to publish applications. So this sort of app store concept you're familiar with from Android and Apple world. So we really are building kind of a unified target platform across different device categories and an API. That is, we call that MeeGo API. It's built on top of Qt, like your familiar environment, and that's really providing good basis for really competitive developer tools. Okay, supporting multiple hardware architectures from the out of the box, Intel and ARM. Today we're running things on the ARM, like OMAP 3 Texas Instruments processors that are coming with the Nokia N900, and then of course several Intel platforms. And if you really dive into the project, you can see that there are also other ARM licenses working on now, MeeGo. So there's work done on ST Ericsson hardware, and there's some things I think on Qualcomm hardware as well, and others. So it's pretty interesting. This is coming out on really large scale now, this multi-architecture support. MeeGo is an independent project hosted by the Linux Foundation. So Linux Foundation really was the kind of midwife, if you want to call it so, that brought Intel and Nokia together here and told us that, hey, you guys really are doing the same thing, why don't you come together and we can help you. And Linux Foundation is endorsing this, is hosting this thing, it's owning some kind of, in a way, critical assets like the MeeGo trademark. It's also owning the infrastructure where the software is being developed and so on. And we have many areas where you need really a kind of neutral agent to promote this thing or take care of certain operational functions. So Linux Foundation is then acting there as a kind of catalyst to do that. And MeeGo is then run and governed by something we call the MeeGo Technical Steering Group, which is not Linux Foundation, but it's really those participants who come to MeeGo and contribute to MeeGo. Today that is Intel and Nokia in the Technical Steering Group, and we really would like to make that larger as we go forward. Like whoever, be them kind of companies or individuals like who come and contribute, then I think they have a claim to the seat in the Technical Steering Group. It's like meritocratic principle how we run this thing. So we really want to use the best practices of open source here. So this is the way. No kind of democracy or voting, but really meritocracy. Okay, Nokia and MeeGo. What is Nokia doing with MeeGo? Well, we are planning to ship our first device this year still, the first MeeGo-based device. And then maybe you have read the news lately about the Nokia N series, our consumer brand, and Symbian and MeeGo. In that relation, there's been a lot of talk that the whole N series will be now MeeGo-based in the future. Yesterday there was still a head of Nokia, was that Mobile Solutions, Anssi Vanjoki, was saying that, well, maybe there might be a couple of Symbian devices still. But anyway, so Nokia is putting a lot of investment in the high-end consumer experience now, the flagship experience, the N series experience on top of MeeGo. So that means that there's going to be really a full application set, links with many Nokia services and operator services, and really like in a way front row seat for Linux now in the Nokia portfolio, which is really a big step. Yeah, so that's Nokia so far, but I mean later on this year then you'll see the news about the device, and this is going to be big news. So MeeGo really is targeting multiple segments, and this is an important point. Tablets, netbooks, consumer electronics devices like connected TVs, handsets, car, entertainment, in-vehicle infotainment is the IVI acronym. Media phones, things like that. So we have multiple hardware architectures supported by the basic operating system layer, and then the different user experience software sets that adapt the software for these different device categories, and then application distribution through like the Nokia Ovi Store, developer support through the Forum Nokia developer program, and Intel developer program and Intel's App Store. So there's choice for the App Store distribution channels also in the application side. And I think this one thing is really interesting and important here. I think it's a timing issue really, and or timing question, and now is the time, in a way, in the evolution of technology. If you think of the hardware technology and the portable electronics that we have this little computer module. It's like single chip device. It has 1 gigahertz of CPU power. It has 1 gigabyte of RAM. So it's kind of good enough to run really a full operating system. You don't need to go and make any optimizations. You can run the desktop grade stuff as such. Okay, you need to really adapt for the user interface and that side of the experience. There you need to do things, but the basic module of the computer is like one which you can really leverage across all these different categories, and there's the considerations of really like getting the CPU power maybe lower or memory lower to save money in the kind of component cost or the size of the chip and the little computer module. It's become marginal. It doesn't anymore matter. So you can create this little module, put on top of that the user experience software, and you can leverage it across these different industries. And I think our friends at Intel are really seeing this opportunity now and coming in with their Atom processor, which is the perfect solution for all these industries. And Intel has a great channel to distribute and provide solutions there. And MeeGo is the software that is part of this module. So this is kind of good insight in I guess you're interested in the technical trends and the roadmap. So it's a good thing to understand why now and why this sort of strategy. MeeGo releases. So we're making releases twice a year. This is normal cadence. April, October time frame, and then we did this 1.0 release now. That was for the netbooks. We've got the first operating system, like the non-UI part thing also, of course, integrated there, and the operating system was running on Nokia N900, not the UI though, but then the UI was also running on various Intel Atom chipsets and netbook devices. And like I said, a couple of days ago, we put out then opened the development, started the kind of public project for the handset UI development, and the release is scheduled to be in October. So then we should really have a kind of fully, in a way, mature release, all the bugs weeded out, and something that you can really take and create a handset device out of that. Make the phone calls, have all the basic functionalities, have a UI which is really competitive in terms of the other fancy UIs out there, and so on. And also we're planning to do something in the car area. This is also cooking. And then going forward, 6 months cadence every time. Okay, here is the architecture. You can see this also. You can study and learn more from the MeeGo.com website. Anyway, but so this is lots of components, all are open source components. Of course, building on top of the Linux kernel and having there certain ways to really run a minimum Linux kernel and operating system environment there. And then build on top of that all these different operating system services and functionalities which are provided to the application developers through an API, which is well managed in terms of compatibility and so on. I think this is really interesting part, this orange thing. We have services for doing various communication things, establishing internet connections, making phone calls and things like that, Bluetooth and so on. Internet services like rendering web pages, creating a kind of web runtime environment, and using their technologies like WebKit is the key technology for anyway providing the web and web runtime experience, building on top of that. Conman, Ophono, Telepathy, and BlueZ are the key connectivity technologies. Building the graphic system around X, okay, and then Qt is actually, it's not on the orange part, but it's in the API. The API is based on Qt, also the new Qt mobility APIs. There will be other APIs which are exposing lots of the middleware functionality, wrapping that in a way behind the managed API so that we can really provide a compatibility and we don't need to care so much about the application developers when we change things in the middleware components, that we can upgrade the components there and we don't need to manage the API or maybe the upstream components don't need to worry about MeeGo compliance so much. So that's why the API wrapper is on top of the middleware components there. So multimedia based on the G-streamer technologies, pulse audio to handle the audio thing, and the policies there also, which can be pretty complex in the handset environment where you are doing all kinds of things. You have media players, simultaneous incoming phone calls, managing the policy of who gets to play the music or ringing tones and all these kind of things, and then the device goes to sleep, and then how to save power. So the audio thing is really complicated. User data management, tracker to harvest user data to do searches in this kind of spotlight style that you write something in your desktop environment, you get whatever is relevant, be it in your emails or your files or in the internet, and where you were doing tweeting or whatever, and these kind of things. So kind of user metadata management. Context kit means that kind of technology to really track information where your device is going. With a handset, you really it's in a dark place, or it's in a light place, or it's in your pocket, it is upside down, or there's lots of information, like what's the mode, is it in the meeting mode, silent mode, or outdoors mode, and so on. And there's a huge amount of information about the usage context, and you can take use kind of benefit of that in your application. So Context Kit is providing a nice way of doing that. Packaging based on Red Hat technologies there, and upgrades. Device health, sensor framework, those things are coming from the MIMO software track. We have been open sourcing those components now and are integrating them in the MeeGo releases as we speak. So backup, device synchronization things, that's also kind of Nokia technology that's going or being open sourced right now. So anyway, there's a full set of operating system services there, and then an API on top of that. And then the way how that is all adapted to the device types is this user experience layer, then, which is like separate software, different software for different device types. We have for netbooks, for example, that was released. There's a netbook application suite really suitable for this clamshell type of computer netbook type of devices. There was a separate thing that was demonstrated by Intel for tablets a little while ago. Maybe you saw some videos out of that. That was really cool stuff. And for handsets, we have those applications and the MeeGo Touch Framework, MTF, that was just brought out in the public a few days ago. So if you want to create applications for MeeGo devices, you can rely on Qt and the MeeGo API, which is guaranteed to be present in every MeeGo device. Or if you really want to tailor the experience to a device type, then you take those extra frameworks that are coming with the device UX. For example, MeeGo Touch Framework, if you want to really make it optimal for handset and take advantage of all the graphical user interface capabilities there. You have a choice there, like how deep you want to optimize versus how broad you want your application to be supported. Okay, the IPR policy. This is also on the website. There are a lot of text there. I just highlight the key points here. I think this always is interesting bit for the communities anyway. So this is OSI licenses. Everything that goes in must be OSI compliant license. Okay. And libraries, really, we are encouraging library type of licenses like LCPL2 and others, so that you can really link there in proprietary applications also. And anyway, we have this kind of hybrid strategy that you can mix. You really need to mix and match proprietary and open source components throughout the architecture. So we try to manage the architecture in that way, not to close out the proprietary innovation either, but really try to push and create the whole platform as open source really as much as possible. So for example, this spring Nokia is open sourcing about 25 really major software components as part of this, and we are really striving to make the process of develop those really totally transparent, not just dumping the code and putting an open source license on top of that, but really going open. I'm going to talk, for example, the Qt changes now a bit later here in this presentation. So open source throughout the libraries, and the library license LGPL version 2 is encouraged. And the user experience, permissive licenses, BSD style, like Apache 2, things like that, or BSD. Well, that's a thing, especially now in the handset. There's a lot of companies, especially in the Asia, who are really, they want to come in the business and make devices, differentiate in the UI and so on, and they don't necessarily know how open source works at this point of time yet. And well, this is anyway the thing that Android is providing, so we are providing the same. So we are in a kind of put on the line side by side. But then, anyway, that doesn't prevent them to create applications and license them on GPL or other licenses either. So I guess those are very much welcome, but we are encouraging this type of licensing models. And then it's always case by case when components that are being agreed to be part of the official stack. Yeah, agreed case by case that okay, this is needed and then the license is this or that, then okay. So there's no strict policy, but this is a guideline. Okay, there's no contribution agreements or any additional contracts. It's just come in, you really need to stand up with your contributions, own the copyright and be responsible of that. It's very important. We have the sign-off things like in kernel.org, that you sign off your patches, you have this certificate of origin, that there's a kind of paper trail that where these patches come from. But that's all. There's no additional contract regarding IPR or so. I think some of these platform groups have something, but MeeGo is we just want it to be very simple, that you have the software there, it is on those upstream component licenses. There's no compilation license, but it's just the licenses of the upstream components. And you take that, you do whatever you like that as long as you obey the open source licenses, and that's it. So simple as that. Okay, Qt. Really, Qt is an increasing trend of openness. Of course, you know all this, like Qt and KDE have a long history, and how it went towards more and more embracing free software and open source licenses, GPL and so on. Nokia acquired Trolltech a couple of years back, and soon after that we came out with this license change to LGPL. And the reason for that is really is that we want to make it like kind of more kind of lucrative for the industry in general to really start building and investing on top of Qt. There's two parts to that. Like Nokia wants to convince, for example, its competitors like Samsung and others to take Qt and invest on top of that. Be part of creating of Qt, invest into creating of Qt. And two parts to that, so the license that, okay, the dual licensing model is no-go. That's kind of viewed from the industry point of view as proprietary software. Like GPL, only GPL is like too exclusive, and then if the other alternative is commercial license, then it's the same thing like going to Microsoft to get a library. So, no. But LGPL is all right. And then the other thing is the thing that's now cooking is this open governance, and I think it also touches all of you because it's not just the companies coming together and agreeing what's the future of Qt and making decisions about the technical selections and having maintainers for Qt modules and so on, but it's also for anybody, all the volunteers and so on. So this thing, I mean, please just follow up the blogs in the Qt website. We have probably Tiago is here somewhere. Tiago Masiero there, can you stand up please? So you want to talk about this topic, then you talk to that guy. So yeah, so Qt is very different like it used to be a couple of years back because of this acquisition. Nokia doesn't want to sell Qt or make money. The business model is different. We want to make Qt as the platform that everybody is using, and we want to make the rules such that they attract companies and individuals. So this is the thing. And this is this is actually driving a big change that I claim is also having its ripples in the KDE community too, so we better understand that. So this is actually the thing we're kind of bringing from the GNOME world, this licensing model and friendliness towards the industry and so on, which was a really great thing in GNOME and GTK and now kind of mixing the picture a bit. Okay, here's the ecosystem of MeeGo. So MeeGo is really, we're having this like pretty bold vision of a really holistic ecosystem to create all kinds of devices, all kinds of players coming together. And so, of course, we have the upstream open source component projects, and MeeGo is having a couple of new projects established, like the MeeGo Touch framework and so on, which are filling some gaps there. But by and large, MeeGo is an assembly line. 1,000 upstream components put together, stay really close to the upstream components, upgrade the versions to the latest every 6 months. So there's really a rigid standard process for that. You can find the description of that in meego.com. So, like really operational, make the release in a predictable way, and provide this machinery which is very predictable and professional, and then kind of different companies can come into that and provide their parts, like the chipset companies. We have, of course, Intel there, but we have many ARM licenses now as well, coming in, having their boards, putting MeeGo on top of that, and making sure that it runs great on their board, and then suddenly it's available for everybody, and it's a really big change actually. Like if you think of it, like the chipset companies didn't used to have access to the software stacks in this way earlier that much for the like big devices like the PCs and so on. They were Microsofts and they were Symbians who were just owning everything, and now the chipset companies are seeing that, hey, it's Linux and we can do anything, and we can really innovate in the software and in the hardware. And I think Intel is really seeing this and taking a lot of advantage of this, and the others are following suit, but Intel is having a big head start in all of this. So anyway, so this is also a huge change in the industry. Application vendors, yeah. On top of the MeeGo API, create applications, maybe make little business selling those, or just then make just your own applications and give it out for free, whatever. Technology vendors, like I said, throughout the architecture, mixing and matching proprietary and open source technologies. That's what we want to enable. So really, if there is somebody creating something really innovative, like user interaction technologies, and it's driven by some Silicon Valley company out there with investors who want to get their investment returns and IPOs and stock prices skyrocketing, then okay, that's fine. As long as they are first and they make the innovation, then we want to be able to integrate it here, and we want to provide them tools to put it in quickly. And also, the operating system vendors. So MeeGo is a platform which is complete, it's mature, but it's not productized in a way of productization that you would have your target customers who are having problems, and you really go and solve those problems. You listen to the customers and you bend backwards to solve their problems and support them and everything. Like MeeGo is a help yourself community like any open source community is, of course. But then there's an opportunity to make a business there. So we have companies like Novell, for example, right now there, and they are taking MeeGo technologies and they are productizing that and making solutions out of that for their customers. And of course the device vendors then, like Nokia or like some others, Asus, who can work directly with MeeGo or through some operating system vendor, create a complete device solution then for end users, enterprise or consumers. At Nokia in particular, we are really operating in many roles here. We are our own operating system vendor. We really take the MeeGo releases, we package them, we add our own value added, we solve and support the problems of our customers and so on. We create applications and technologies, so we are quite integrated in this chain. Okay, here's a slide about the team then, MeeGo team. So we have about, really, if you look, the important part is the upstream thing, really. Intel and Nokia developers, Novell developers who are creating many of these upstream technologies that you saw in the architecture. We have over 1,000 really developers who are not creating products or not integrating MeeGo, but really creating new technologies in the stack, and that's huge. I mean, think of it, like there's also huge talent and passion in this room, but we have also a team which is not in this room, but it's creating these Linux and open source technologies that you are building on. So this is one thing that is also, I claim, it is going to change the industry landscape a bit somehow, that we get these things together and we really have new fuel to drive the Linux client architecture with this team of integrated full talent of over 1,000 really competent and passionate developers. And then thousands of those guys who are taking these things and integrating them in the product context. So this is really a huge pool of developers. I bet if you go to Redmond or Mountain View with Google or Apple, and I mean this is a team that's like equally of equal size and at least equal competence and passion, and we're going to really do something big during the next couple of years here with this team. Okay, going forward, MeeGo for the handsets and for the netbooks. So handsets, really complete open source stack for handset creation, the operating system middleware, graphical user interface and applications. Complete application platform, API and SDK based on Qt and other APIs that we put together and manage that. An application store, developer support through Intel and Nokia, huge support organizations, ramping up second half of this year when we have the devices coming in. And then of course devices, like Nokia is really putting the high-end consumer devices there, so you will see millions of devices shipping this platform, which is remarkable. So first release of the handset is coming next October, like I said. But now we had this day one, 2 days ago. So the code, the process is publicly there at MeeGo.com. So go and see. Okay, this is a bit about the. I think I just skipped to this slide, which I want to quickly talk about. So now it's MeeGo, but it's also Symbian and this Nokia acquisition of Qt. So what is happening that Qt is really kind of then getting really high deployment. So and Qt is now entering the application platform game in the handset. So of course we have Apple there, like innovating and leading and showing this that hey, with these app stores you can make money and this is what people actually nowadays even taking the high-end devices as the number one choice criteria for their devices, which is a remarkable change in the consumer kind of choices and behavior. So Apple volumes are going like this. They are huge now, and then they are growing a lot. But Android is growing even faster today. And if you see the industry predictions, that it's about to catch up and go beyond Apple in a couple of years because of this thing that there are many vendors, and many operators. There's many chipset companies supporting Android, and just the choice and the variety and the possibility to solve many different customer needs is driving it and the adoption higher. And now this is of course like take this with the but Qt is coming here actually. And today we are shipping Qt with the Nokia N900. That means already that we are crossing the 1 million limit. Okay, our trajectory today already is higher. You see, but then Qt is becoming standard part of Symbian devices, which will mean that we will very fast go beyond the 10 million limits.
Is this an official Nokia projection or is it your spot?
This is mine. But hey, this is still this is a point I want to make for you guys because so that you really figure out this the Qt and the acquisition. It's driving a big change because the volumes and the interest in Qt is going to be huge now, and we are driving that through MeeGo, which is genuinely a kind of multi-vendor platform and so on. And we see that going to the current Symbian volumes and beyond that, which is of course the target. This is my dream picture. Dirk.
So everyone is laughing about this, but actually the green line isn't steep enough. So Android will surpass Apple this year. And anybody who had said this 12 months ago would have been laughed out of the room.
Exactly.
And I think the blue line flattens out way too early.
Okay, but hey, then another point which is very interesting to you is this, that Linux is taking over the smartphones. Through Android, through MeeGo, like this is really something. Also this, I mean, somebody saying that a couple of years ago, last year, would have been laughed out the room, really. But this is a fact, and then, of course, it's the kernel first, but then other components, and this is going to create a lot of interest and things. So another big tremor close to KDE. So I don't know, I hope it's not like this, that you have your little nest there and it's a desktop world and so on, and there's a train coming. Of course, the train is not hitting, it's just driving over, maybe like disturbing the KDE home a bit, but huh? Yeah, anyway, yeah, but Qt is not what it used to be, but I mean, still, Nokia has every intent to really develop Qt as like the best technical tool to create applications and desktop environments and be the kind of most productive developer technology out there, cross-platform and so on. So that is not changing, but just the interest in Qt. Qt is kind of being catapulted to a new level, and this is the message. Okay, I need to speed up. MeeGo 1 for netbooks. We got really positive feedback. High-profile technical sites were praising the performance and so on, and saying that, hey, well, this is pretty remarkable. MeeGo is going to be a major force in the market. Complete set of software supported by multiple operating system vendors today already. Productized. The UI is based on the Moblin technologies. That's GTK and Clutter. I know that's not the right words in this room. But anyway, but there's a complete application suite, and we didn't see any need to go and rewrite that. We wanted to create the experience for the end users fast, and that's what matters. But still, the API and the SDK and these are based on Qt. So, and this is now also something to think for you and challenge that, hey, how can we make this, like bridge this gap faster, that make this like closer to KDE and Qt soon. What happened to my, yeah, okay. So MeeGo Touch framework. This is, it's kind of a desktop environment, I think. And this is now the thing that we built to get fast moving with the handsets, and it was the desktop framework of Maailma 6 and so-called Harmattan UI, which was open sourced last year already under LGPL version 2, but there are also now other licenses, so it's just like completely mapping to the Qt licenses. Complete UI framework, so you have the home screens, the launchers, application tasks, features, input methods, widget libraries, and so on, themable and so on. The guidelines to develop applications and how this works are there in MeeGo.com today. It's based on Qt graphics view, and this is the like fundamental building block of the handset API and so on. KDE technologies in MeeGo today. This is actually something in cooking, and maybe Suresh, here's a person at Nokia side. Maybe you could stand up and people can see you. So Suresh Chande is working at Nokia, and he's been really driving this part. So you should talk to this guy and talk about what Nokia is doing in this area and also what the other MeeGo community is doing there. What are the lessons learned? We have been actually contributing a lot and investing in these areas, and so mostly interest has been on K-Office, Circular, and the KCal. Use as basis of some of the MeeGo applications that are shipping or will ship in the future Nokia devices. Or then enhance some existing applications. So what we are doing is we are contributing new features there, some things for the kind of file formats, things like that. Refactoring the architecture to really be able to provide a UI environment that's optimized for the handheld device, and building the UI there. But the refactoring is really important. So how to make the engine modular so that you can really use that in many contexts. We are reporting and fixing bugs. For example, more than 1,000 bugs reported for K-Office, and we are fixing a lot of those. So I think some things are happening, but we need to really, this is just a start. I feel we really need to find ways to go and make this list like 20 applications. Okay, this is one example, FreeOffice. This is the K-Office thing, which is now you can download that for your N900 if you have one. So supports the Microsoft and ODF formats, downloaded over 30,000 times. Here's the statistics. So major releases, and then there have been spikes there, and now there's new features being added like editing and so on, and that's the current thing. So it's really interesting, and we are really thankful for the K-Office thing actually, and it's been good cooperation so far. So and going forward. So good. And I'm really now I have so much to say. I've been rushing through my slides here, but hey, key messages now for you. So Qt is facing this quantum leap in adoption, and that is going to have some tremors in KDE also. So we don't exactly know what it is, but I think this is a good point for everybody to think about what that is and how it is going to affect. Somehow it's redefining the landscape, and MeeGo there too, but we don't know how. Okay, we would like you, and we would like to be part of that, like we are in this K-Office and other things, to develop software which can be leveraged really across all these Qt-based platforms. You will benefit out of that. You can see those bug fixes and that part, and you can concentrate maybe on those parts which are more interesting to you. I don't want to ask you to develop any other experience than the KDE experience freedom, but anyway, still these are the areas where we really can find common ground, even very in short notice, and just like let's discuss about these lessons learned about kind of modularizing the KDE libs for the K-Office FreeOps thing and things like that. They are really good lessons learned there. Okay, would like to ask your help maybe, or just if you kind of can find some interest in these areas to drive the MeeGo Netbook UX more towards Qt applications there, or in the inbox, or just add-on applications, and then trying out the new Qt technologies like QML to create quickly really fancy-looking applications on the netbooks. And the last bullet point, really, like you have done, I think this is the thing for a community like this to focus really on great technology. I think this is, like I said in the beginning, I never thought that I would be in the KDE conference. I thought that, well, the license is so bad, it's not working together with the industry and so on. But the technology is great, and Qt is really good technology, and KDE around that too. And that is the fundamental thing. Licenses can change, and times change, and business models and requirements change, but the technology doesn't change. And this is the thing actually that this community has really done right. And I think really good use of object-oriented technologies and cooperation with Trolltech over the years and so on. And this is paying off. I mean, I learned a lesson here. And I just want to remind you that keep on doing the good stuff you do. Okay, so that's all I had for you in this keynote. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I think we should take one or two questions and stretch the schedule. If you have questions, please wait for a mic to.
Hi, I have a question. As lots of Asian countries have their own special fonts or some special input methods, and I have nothing heard about the localization stuff inside MeeGo. And do you have any open source participation in localization of MeeGo platform?
Oh yeah, we have a lot, and actually we are having a process where we already have received contributions of translations. The input methods so far, well, the handset stuff is very new, so I guess there's way to also localize those things more on programming level. But yeah, this is a big focus, and you can see that. Go just see the netbook translations and how that goes in MeeGo.com. So you'll be surprised. 92 languages. Wow, so that's going through the roof. Okay, thanks, Dirk. The microphone.
No, we'll take one more question from over on this side.
Okay.
Him.
Sorry.
I saw that during the presentation that you're forking applications like K-Office to help build the base MeeGo. Office Suite. Do you plan to push those changes back into KDE upstream?
Yes, I think many of those changes have been already pushed back, and maybe actually Suresh can answer that best because he knows all the things there. So can we get a microphone to Suresh?
Yeah, we are not forking anything in K-Office. Everything is an upstream, so you will find all the work, contributions, bug fixes, everything going upstream.
Sorry, I have to say something to this. It's far worse than that. It's far worse than this. A general rule in MeeGo is that things will not go into MeeGo unless they're upstream. So it is a condition for acceptance to the MeeGo kernel that you're either already upstream or that you're in the process, that you're doing discussions with the kernel mailing list. The same goes for all of the components. We have no interest to be yet another fork bomb. We want to work upstream. We want to be a true open source distribution. And we have had way too many bad experiences in the Linux community with people who say, oh, we're open source, and oh, by the way, here is our version of your code. If you like it, please take it out of this weird repository that we're throwing this way. This is not how we want to work. We want to work truly upstream with all of the different upstream maintainers, and so far I think we've done a pretty good job with that.
A very quick remark. We actually have been vastly increased activity in K-Office, and I guess that's thanks to the efforts of the MeeGo team. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank Valtteri once more for an interesting presentation. And we will now split the conference. Yes, we're going to be forking.